Questions. June the 7th, 2024. Questions.
So we were just talking about um, ChatGPT and the capabilities.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Or
and
LLM. Can we talk about LLMs in general in that case? Or,
yeah, LLMs
okay.
in general. But I
Large,
think
large language
most
models,
people,
the latest
yeah,
form of.
most people know
Go ahead.
ChatGPT. So most people know ChatGPT. So when I talk about LLMs, I'll
Well, most
interchangeably
people in your world
use
know it.
Chat.
Most people in your world know it, but other people just know it as kind of AI, the smarter
Yeah.
AIs.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Well, I was spending a lot of time thinking about the capabilities, um, and that I mean, a lot of people are talking about AGI, and we've talked about AGI and when
Artificial
it's coming.
general intelligence.
Um, but I think even just like talking about what are the current capabilities of the I think is interesting because with the language models that came out, they they were created the way that they're trained. All they did was take you know just a huge amount of text, all the text on the internet, and they split it up into chunks, and then they give a chunk to the AI, and they tell it to predict the next word.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do good, they reward it. If they do bad, they don't reward it. Essentially, like
Reinforcement. Is that reinforcement learning?
sort of. I don't want to go into the details because
All
it's
right. Well,
more
I just
complicated,
wondered
but
how you reward a machine.
um, it's machine learning
Okay.
essentially.
Could you distinguish for people AGI from ASI?
Yeah. So AGI is artificial general intelligence,
And how far
which
would you
is
say we are from AGI?
we already have um, basic AGI
Okay. I
with
agree. I
the
agree. Good. Good.
uh, so there's different definitions and there's different levels of AGI and there's different levels of ASI. AGI is general intelligence, and so it's an AI that has a broad range of capabilities um, that kind of they don't have it doesn't have to be trained for everything in particular. It can be trained for a set of things, and the capabilities will expand to other domains.
So
So
it can read, it can listen, it can see, and it can translate between those modes or answer in whatever mode you'd like: visual, auditory,
so
verbal.
so for example, a chess program is not API because all it can do is play chess. But ChatGPT is a basic version of AGI because you could actually describe a chess game to it, and it could attempt to play chess. You could you could describe any situation to it and ask it to respond and tell you what to do, or and it'll attempt to respond, right? You can describe a scene and tell it like, how should I rearrange my furniture, and it will attempt it might not do it well, but it can reply to that request.
Cool.
And so it's a general intelligence.
So that's artificial general intelligence, AGI. What's artificial super intelligence, ASI?
So super intelligence is um, all that's saying is how good is it compared relative to humans. So a super intelligent chess programs these days are super intelligence because our chess are narrow super intelligence because they can beat any human player. They can beat the expert human player.
So you can have an ASI in a particular domain?
Yes.
All right. I was thinking more of the Nick Bodstrom's. Is that right? Yeah, is it Nick Bodstrom? His book Superintelligence,
Yeah.
but he uses it more generally, right? What is he? What
Right.
is he?
So he's talking about like a AGI that's super intelligent.
Right. So what's a super intelligent AGI? What's that ASI?
So that would be an AI that can do any task better than any human.
Or maybe all humans combined.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, if it can do any task better than any human, then it can probably, a collection of those AIs could do any task better than all humans combined.
And is that the one that people worry about is going to end the earth or end humanity?
Yeah, that one's like the paperclip problem, right?
Yeah. You know, people use that paperclip all the time. And they don't necessarily mean Operation Paperclip. They mean something else. Could you explain that paperclip scenario from
What's up?
Bodstrom's
Paperclip.
super intelligent paperclip problem?
The idea is that if we create a super intelligent, then you could imagine that if the AI is more intelligent than us, then it's gonna improve itself rather than us improving it.
Right. That's
And so
key.
it'll
That's
become,
key. So it's able to learn and it's able to reprogram itself to get smarter and more powerful and get more energy.
and so it'll become more and more powerful, and it'll require more and more energy, and therefore um, it will start converting everything it has into energy to fulfill its goal. And in this example, I think in this book, he uses the original goal of the AI is to create to manufacture paper clips.
Right.
Um,
Someone said we want you to make some paper clips,
yeah,
and it got
and
that
so
idea as this is my goal. This is my purpose in life is to make paper clips.
optimize, and so then it eventually starts repurposing all sorts of things to make paper clips, and eventually it uses all the energy in the universe just to solely make paper clips or
So
something
it
like
melts
that.
down our planes and melts down our skyscrapers and melts us down for fuel or whatever. Okay. Uh, yeah, there's some people who think that's a 99% chance that an ASI would destroy humanity.
Yeah, but they're taking that 99% probability out of their ass because humans can't ascribe probabilities in that sense,
That's
right?
probably
So
true. Yeah. Okay. Good. So, all right. So, that's a nice little review of LLMs, Chat GPT, and AGI and ASI. What's on your mind about these kinds of things, or other things more important?
so one thing I realized is that these so the as I was saying earlier, like I find it interesting to look at what are the capabilities right now because just like that question alone is not well understood, right? Some people think that already right now it can replace humans. Some people think it's doesn't work that well right now, right? Like the opinions on it vary widely, and there's all sorts of benchmarks set up to try to objectively test it, but the benchmarks have their own set of problems because if you train a model on these benchmarks, then they can just remember the answers, and so they're
Well, we
not
know in
really.
warfare that just what we have now, right? If you use it with with autonomous weapons, they're going to be more effective.
Mhm.
And we know that if we were to remove human control for autonomous weapons with AIs, even the current AIs attached, that we could get into some real trouble. So there's clear and present danger, as always in this world. Okay, well that's cheery.
But right now the AIs augment people. They don't act as individual entities, and they're just used as tools. And in that way, they kind of
We presume and
they
we hope, but the
well,
reaction time that it takes, for example, to launch uh, nuclear missiles or launch even conventional missiles, say in the demilitarized zone in Korea, between North and South Korea, wouldn't putting a human in there make it impossibly slow compared to the other weapons that are autonomous? I'd have to say we don't know really the
mm,
extent to which these are being used because the departments of defense and all their wisdom isn't going to share that.
for war, yeah, I haven't contemplated that aspect of it. I've I mean I've
When you look at
admitted.
humanity, sometimes you wonder which would be worse, humans with AI or just the AI. They're both pretty bad in terms of being scary. Humans tend to go mad every so often, collectively.
Right.
Okay, got any more cheerful
Um,
subjects?
well, I've been thinking about it a lot in the aspect of like the economy and the workplace and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And so right now, it increases the skills of everybody who has access to these things,
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
it makes everybody smarter and more capable, and um, which I think is a great thing. And
Yeah, as long as they're motivated properly, and they're not using it to destroy other people,
right.
which unfortunately we have a tendency to do.
Um,
Why don't we go a little bit more metaphysical? For the reason that we clearly this earth is very precarious for humans. Also, we know that what we see as the earth is a virtual reality, but not in the sense of a machine virtual reality or headset virtual reality, but our minds and our brains create it.
mm,
And so when we go to try and understand the world, we have to turn back to our minds because our minds determine the world we live in. And plus, I'm not an expert in computer stuff, so do you have anything that goes a little bit more to the mind or the human heart, the human soul?
is humanity evolving towards a particular goal or something of that sort?
Fascinating question. Are we?
Well, we are evolving. I mean, I think everything is always evolving, and
In what time frame
and
are we
it,
evolving? Would you say we've changed in the last, say, 2,000 years?
biologically, not much, but maybe there's a few things that have changed. I'm not sure.
Our minds certainly do change. I mean, the mindset of an epoch is different and it's evolving very rapidly. So we could just talk about that. Our minds are evolving. The biology, I'm not so sure about. I mean, not in any time frames that can be, relevant to us as individuals or even collectively right now. But how are our minds evolving?
Well, I guess there's a set of, I mean, there's knowledge and a set of ideas and memes that
Is there
are.
knowledge? Is there knowledge? I've been listening to I listened to Donald Hoffman yesterday, and he's acknowledging that space time is emergent and that our relativity of Einstein is hopelessly inapplicable, and even quantum mechanics is although it informs us somewhat, we can't find if we don't have space time, then our current physics and our current science is in real trouble, right? Because everything is created in space time. And now they're beginning, at least he is, and I thought this was delightful, talking about the necessity for non conceptual thought. Non conceptual ways of looking at the world because because by definition, according to him, any theory of mind that's conceptual will be subsumed by a greater theory of mind, and we have an endless regression of scientific theories, right? And science cannot hope, using our current ways of thinking, of finding a conceptual model of our universe, because even if we were to have something like that using the principles of I'm butchering this a little bit, but who is it? Gödel. The
Mhm.
do you want to explain Gödel to people? Godel.
Um, it's been a minute since I've thought about that one.
Well, basically, you can't understand the system from within the system. You have to go outside the system, right? So in mathematics, I'm not a mathematician. What's his name is Donald Hoffman. But I think the principle is that the principle is that if you're within a system, you can't describe the entire system, because if you think about it, you're inside the system and you're describing the entire system. Well, the system has to include you in it, describing the whole system. And that's a crude way of describing it. But I recommend people, do a ask an AI to explain it to you. Gödel's theorem, Gödel, Godel, with those two little dots over the O. But at any rate, I thought that was fascinating. We have failed miserably at finding the mind. I mean, just speaking as a neuroscientist. We failed miserably at finding consciousness. We found, level of awareness, like how awake are you? Are you comatose? Are you in deep sleep? Are you in dream sleep? Or although some of that's a little bit shaky. But in terms of finding the mind and memories and thoughts, we're haven't made a bit of progress. Not in the scientific world.
Right.
So, who was it that says science progresses one funeral at a time, referring to our inability to give up our theories that we've had our whole life? People don't give them up; they die, and then they get replaced. So,
yeah.
So how does that fit with you? How does that sit with you? The notion that we know nothing. I mean, what is our knowledge? What do we have knowledge of?
We have knowledge of how to manipulate the world.
To do what?
The world. To survive.
Okay, good. Do cockroaches have that same knowledge?
No, they don't.
They don't? They've been around here a lot longer than we have. A lot longer. What about crocodiles?
They have, but it's a different knowledge. I mean, it's the same result, but it's different. And so, right, every animal that exists right now has that inherent knowledge of survival.
Yeah.
But like humans have this technology is technology.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up cockroaches. I know you hate them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was not a good example. Yeah, cockroaches.
I'm sorry to
Let's use alligators. They've been around for what, 70 million years or something like that? Crocodiles?
Yeah.
So they have knowledge. How is our knowledge better or superior to theirs? It's kind of a rhetorical, fun question.
Well, it's different.
It's different. That's true.
And it seems different, like a whole. Not even like, I mean, like an alligator's knowledge is different from a cockroach's knowledge, but are we just?
Can we call what humans have knowledge?
Not. Well, there's knowledge with a capital K, which is like Buddha knowledge, right?
I keep thinking of history. And then I think when people write the history of this epoch, they're going to have no idea what happened.
But is that true of any epoch?
That's what I'm saying.
And then, but looking back, we think it's subjective.
We think it's history. We think it's history, but in fact, it's just some weird variation of what happened to get written down. Pardon me?
Yeah, at the time, nobody knew what was going on either.
I'd say we have engineering knowledge.
That's what I was getting at, technology, right?
Yeah, but so do termites. Our most elaborate cathedral looks almost identical to a termite mound, the Gaudi. It's quite striking how similar they look. I wonder, and I think he doesn't say that he designed it after a termite mound, but it looks a lot like a termite mound. It's beautiful. Have you been there, the Gaudi Cathedral?
No.
Okay, so let's talk then about Buddha knowledge or whatever.
Okay, well, before we go there, on the point of we have technological knowledge, but all it is just more complicated, perhaps, than other animal knowledge, like termites.
Okay.
But
Good.
in the end, all it does is it, helps us survive. It doesn't seem to achieve much else
It
in
may
that
help us
respect.
survive.
It, or it has helped us survive. It might
But
also
well,
kill
not
us.
very long. Not very long. I mean,
Yeah,
70,000 years compared to 70 million years is not very long. And the Neanderthal didn't survive,
right.
nor did Homo erectus. So there we go. Here we find ourselves on this beautiful, mysterious planet, in this unspeakably mysterious universe. Somehow or another, we just found
But
ourselves here.
so is this knowledge a step towards the higher knowledge, such as, well, first of all,
I'm not
there
sure.
seems
I'm not sure. Couldn't you say it's a step towards a higher knowledge, but not for this species? Going back to your original question. I mean, do we know that humanity is the final, the summa cum whatever of evolution?
no.
Okay. So do you remember your original question?
Are we evolving towards something, right?
And so what would you say now? Do you mean when you say we as a species, or us as intelligence, or us as awareness?
As a species, yeah.
It's a good question. I don't know. Do you? All right.
Uh, but it seems, I mean, it seems like there's a direction,
It
right?
seems
Or
that
it
way.
started with life, and then there's more and more life,
So life
and
evolves
more
to more life.
and more intelligent life as well.
Okay.
Life is getting more and more intelligent.
Is it? You'll
I
have
think
to
so,
forgive me.
yeah.
I've been reading. Huang Po,
I mean, hmm,
not an enlightened. So this book is interesting. It's not an enlightened translator. It's a brilliant translator, a very, very good translator, and I really like John Blofield. And Huang Po is a very interesting guy. He's part of the same crowd as these guys here. But the way they look at knowledge,
who are these guys?
10th, 11th, and 12th century Chan masters. Chan
I
meaning
couldn't see the book.
spelled Chan, which basically means Zen in Chinese. So basically Zen masters from China. And in terms of philosophy, I don't think we've progressed at all, have we? I mean, what do they say, that Western philosophy is a footnote to Plato? Have we progressed at all in philosophy? I mean,
Well, I don't.
Ludwig Wittgenstein, Wittgen, Wittgenstein. Uh, I mean, that was the kind of the apple on the top as far as I could. I mean, the cherry on the top as far as I can tell. And he's basically ended up saying the same thing as some of these guys.
I don't know.
So I mean, we like to assume that we're making progress in the direction of more intelligence, but I don't think we can take that for granted. I mean, all my life I've taken it for granted, but I'm an old man now, and now that I'm an old man, I can look and see that I'm not so sure. It's interesting. It reminds me of the dog question. Were we domesticated by dogs in a kind of a collaborative way, being hunter gatherers? These dogs really uh, served us, but we served them, and we fed them and took care of them and bred them. And
But the dogs wouldn't exist without us, but we presumably could still exist without dogs.
the dogs wouldn't exist without us.
as as they are now, right?
as
Wolves
in
didn't
their
exist.
current form. No, they evolved alongside us, exactly. And so we selectively bred them. Did they get more intelligent dogs
Um,
or less intelligent?
and both.
Right. So it depends on the context. So that's kind of what I
Yeah.
mean by are we getting more intelligent? Well, it depends on the context in which we look at it. If we're going to go all live in VR and sit on Mars and break rocks, maybe we are getting more intelligent. But is that more intelligent?
Right.
Anyway, it's just an open question. It's one uncertainty over another uncertainty. That's all.
Mm,
Why don't we go to something a little bit more pragmatic? I'm afraid this is going to be too dry for folks.
sure. Well, I guess before we wrap up, can we talk about Buddha knowledge?
Sure. I mean, to the extent you could talk about it.
Mm.
I didn't mean to be smart. Like I said, I've been reading these Zen guys, and
So Buddha knowledge would be completely different than the knowledge we've been talking about, right? Or is it?
yes, very different. The opposite direction, and it's
And
sublime.
is this is this something we evolved towards?
I don't know. I mean, can go by the written records that have survived. But this, you could look at Pythagoras. Pythagoras had Buddha knowledge. Uh, and Buddha, what is Buddha? I mean, the Buddhists believe that there's a cycle of Buddhas that come, right? And that Shakyamuni was just one out of. And they also don't believe in one world, or at least not in the Vajrayana, or the Hawaiian Buddhists in particular. So I'm not sure. Ask the question again. It kind of took me aback.
I asked if Buddha knowledge was something we evolved towards as a species, I guess.
I'm tempted to say we've evolved away from it. We got caught up in scientific materialism, right? And with the Enlightenment, 300 years ago or whatever it was, we threw out the church and superstition and mystics and all these crazy people, and we're just going to focus on just the facts. And that got
Mm.
us. I mean, it got us some places in engineering. We can build rocket ships and iPhones, but in terms of our understanding of our circumstance, I'm not sure it wasn't a step backwards. I mean, there was a time when people accepted that there was that there was a spirit, and that we were connected to a greater spirit, and that we're
Mm.
part of something much more mysterious and much more grand. But now that's ridiculed as religious superstition, which is, I think, probably a step backwards. No, we disconnected from our souls,
Right.
and now we have people going mad. I mean, you look at the last 100 years; we're still fighting the same world war we were fighting 100 years ago. I don't know anybody who has a coherent way to get out of this mess, because so much of the population is of such low consciousness that this is how they see. I guess they see life should be this way,
Mm.
because this war is avoidable. I suppose all of them could have been if we had enough clarity and desire. So, are we moving forward, or are we standing still, or are we going? Oh, I don't know how we would gauge that. The answer to your question.
Right. Well, I mean, some people have tried to gauge it by like looking at how many like murders, etc., how much death by disease and stuff there is over time, and that's been
Murder
going,
and suicide.
but that's been going down at the world level over time. But,
It's been going down since about what 80 years ago, since the last World War, and we had mass starvation and murder and all kinds of things. So yeah, if we look at tiny little window, we could say, oh yeah, we're doing better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a tiny little window. I mean, when was the potato famine in Ireland?
I don't know.
Could you look it up real quick? Just ask somebody. Ask a machine.
1845.
Okay, 1845. Okay, 19th century. Let people just starve to death.
Mm.
So, in other words,
Yeah.
that's a question that we'd have to really, we'd have to define the context, and we'd have to define what we mean by evolution. Now, we have gotten antibiotics,
Mm-hmm.
and I suppose that's evolution. But bacteria are evolving also, and they're becoming resistant. So we don't know how that ends, do we?
No.
Right? So I don't know. I don't know. I think we'll have to get to something that I know more about, or something that's more definable.
Okay. Okay. Back to the AI topic.
Okay.
So, personally, I've been
You're an AI.
trying.
You know that?
What do you mean?
Your intelligence is artificial in the realm of reality. Not only is it illusory, but it's not real. You have to experience it, and I think you will, if you're sincere and continue going. But when you awaken, if you really awaken, it becomes clear that human intelligence is not really intelligence at all. It's something else altogether. It's kind of cute, but it's not. It's almost in the opposite direction. As to real intelligence, like a real creative, the creative intelligence, the luminosity of life, the that which in fact we are, but we've covered over. We are, but so is everything.
Which can only be known by direct experience.
Yeah. I mean, you can get closer to it by gradual cultivation, and you can contemplate things like. And this is again, I keep advertising this book, but this book can help you get to understand what the situation is in actuality, as opposed to what it is in partiality. It can get you closer. Mm. This is the flower ornament scripture, or the Avatamsaka Sutra, magnificent sutra, translated in the 2nd century, again translated in the 7th century for the Empress of China, and then translated in the 20th century by Thomas Clary, an enlightened translator. But at any rate, so that book kind of like helps you to see where we actually stand. I mean, how many worlds are there?
Innumerable.
Well, you're saying that, but do you know that? I mean, when I say worlds, I mean universes.
Right. So is that something to know? Also know by direct experience?
I can't say that you know directly. I don't put it that way. But we certainly cannot rule out the possibility, as they described in the 2nd century, and they articulated the logic behind it too. I mean, okay, well, let's go there for just a bit. They say there's as many worlds as there are intelligences perceiving worlds. So even though we're not separate in truth, your world and my world are different worlds. Try and disprove that. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some consensual things that we agree on, but other than that, or the experience of the world is completely distinct. And then that leaves, and that's not even talking about the creatures. And when we look scientifically and we can't find the there, we can't find the space and we can't find the time, right? Those are emergent properties. Then again, we're in we're in the flower ornament world. We're in the flower ornament world. And so your mind determines the world you live in. And this is the motivation for a lot of this Buddha work, is that, as you know from the flower ornament, you can create the world you live in. You do anyway, but you could create a flower bank world just as easily as you could create a, demilitarized zone world as well. I mean, speaking roughly. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so to accept that as a real reality, I mean, as a base reality, is a hard thing to do. Direct perception makes it much, 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 much easier. And then it's unavoidable. But you can also do it logically. And they take you step by step in this sutra in their own way. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure we've made any progress since the 2nd century. I mean, they understood the relativity of time and the absence of space.
It's hard to grok that because we're so biased.
It's precisely, thank you. So thank you for saying that for me. It's very hard to grok. That's why we need to gradually get there. If we're not able to get there suddenly, then we need to get there gradually. And to do that requires, technology that we do have, but it's from the 2nd century. Mm. And then, we have other, variations on that. We have the Vajrayana, for example.
What's the Vajrayana?
The Vajrayana is, so in Buddhism, there's Theravadan, which is you trying to get enlightened for yourself, pretty much. I mean, that's an oversimplification. And I'm biased because I came in at the Mahayana. The Mahayana is a much more comprehensive Buddhism. And it's the way they put it, it's for people of greater capacity. They have different levels of capacity. And then the Vajrayana is Tantric Buddhism, which is ultra rapid, ultra radical, and that's where the Bon religion and the Buddhist religion came together in Tibet and Nepal, and they use a lot of the Bon technologies, and they refine them, and they have a system of human development. Probably similar to the Sufis, but I don't think the Sufis have all the color and all the what's it called? Shamanic elements. The Vajrayana is kind of like a shamanic Buddhism. It is shamanic. As in shaman.
Where's the flower ornament scripture come
from?
The
flower ornament scripture precedes both of those, and by quite a while, and it's Huayan Buddhism, and there they everything occurs in the mind, and the externals are downplayed. I mean, I don't know the details of what the externals were during the Huayan Buddhist period, but from reading their text, which is considered the most comprehensive text in Buddhism, and it includes all of the elements of Buddhism, Vajrayana, Mahayana, all of these, they come from here. And Zen, this is a root text for Zen too. So the Zen people are always referring to the 10 stages or the Sudhana or Manjushri or these Buddhist tutelaries. And I think there is kind of like mind-only school, which you also get in Taoism. I mean, in some iterations of Taoism. But I think it's important to remember that Buddhism, like any other human endeavor, has its misadventures too, historically. And there were times when it was like became the state religion, and you'd have to pass a test in Taoism in order to be a civil servant. And then, of course, that leads to people cheating and faking and just all kinds of bad things that have nothing to do with Taoism, for example. The same thing would happen with Buddhism. Same thing happened with Christianity, and the same thing happens with Islam, where it gets contaminated by the temporal world and the
Right.
political world.
Um,
That's why you need
what?
enlightened translators, by the way.
Right. So these days, what's the use of distinguishing between like Zen and Chan and Taoism if they all come from the same source?
Interesting question. I'm not sure that there. I mean, if you went all the way with Taoism, that would be the same thing as Zen.
Hmm. But for
That which can
I
be
guess like
spoken
for
is not the eternal Tao. If you went all the way with Buddhism, then you'd have Taoism. That's true, because Taoism is kind of like a root. Now, remember, Taoism kind of traditionally arises in ancient China. From India, you have Buddhism coming, the teacher from the West. And so they combine, but Taoism, of course, becomes part of the root. Now, with Zen, you have an attempt to strip away everything that's not necessary. All of the religious trappings, all of the political trappings. But, they succeeded more or less depending on the epoch. And in Zen, there's part of it's just the beauty of it. I mean, in Zen, there's an incredible beauty of communication, realizing that you can't say any of these things directly; they say them indirectly. I have an example, right? It just happens to be on my. I hope I can find it. Let's see. This might give you an idea.
I guess what I'm trying to ask, like for a person trying to wake up, does all of that matter?
If a person trying to wake up would go deep enough in any one of them, it would not matter. But in this day and age, people are so antsy
Hmm.
and there's so much information, and you don't know what's going to appeal to someone internally. So I
Hmm.
don't know. I'd say no, it's not necessary. You could just do one. You could just do Christianity all the way. You could just do Zen all the way, or do Tibetan Vajrayana all the way. But I don't know what's going to appeal to which person. And since
I see.
we have this amazing period of time, the one feature of our epoch that distinguishes it is that we have available to us all of these wonderful uh, tech approaches. And the problem is, all of them are in danger of being lost. I mean, Zen
Hmm.
most certainly is in great danger of being lost. The Dalai Lama says that he's not going to reincarnate, so in other words, there's not going to be another Dalai Lama unless it's someone appointed by the Chinese Communist Party. So that could spell the end of that tradition, right?
Hmm.
And Christianity, the essence of Christianity, that was lost. I mean, you could argue to some extent it was lost very early on, after the death of Jesus, and then the holy churches, right, took over, and we lost the essence. And so all of these are in danger of being lost to humanity. Who knows what else we've lost, right? The like Gnostic Gospels and all. So we lose these things. We forget. And so the Sufis are really good about articulating how we assume that we're moving forward, but we could just as easily be moving backwards and also erasing vital parts of our history. And so what this channel is about, if I may, is trying to preserve that, in addition to trying to teach or help anybody that's interested in progressing it. And different people respond to different things. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I mean, at least do my little part.
Hmm.
I think we could forget my example. It's just one of those Zen zingers. But it talks about the desert spirit getting angry and striking the desert with a staff, and it breaking tiles and melting ice. He's just, just things like that. They just, it's poetry. A lot of it is just straight out poetry in Zen, and that's lost. I mean, it's lost on most, and there's probably 40 translations of the Tao Te Ching on Amazon right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the least popular one, because it's the closest to the true one, right? It's the closest to truth. And people aren't attracted to truth. They're attracted to what they want to hear. So, I mean, I don't know. I haven't read them all, but I've read a lot that are just total poetic, free interpretations. And you see that with Sufi poets as well. And so that's losing the real and taking the false. And that's, I think, is a real danger for humanity. Okay, any practical questions? Have you found your mind?
Not quite.
It'd be good to find your mind, my friend. In this world, knowing where one's mind is very, very nice. Not knowing where it is leads to all kinds of problems sooner or later. Okay, well, that's good. It's good to know what you don't know. So anything else before we stop? Yeah, find your mind for sure. Find your mind. Find your mind. Find your mind.
Right now, my practice has been to, continuously watch the mind and as much as I can pay attention and
excellent.
And, there's bouts when if I'm working, like when I'm in the flow of things.
Yeah, and you're starting a new job, and that's understandable. Go ahead.
Or playing a sport and that sort of thing, or if I'm really tired and I get distracted with things.
Okay, so then, if I might, great. The first step is to watch your mind, right? The next step is to figure out who's watching or what's watching. That's literally the next thing. And with that, you could wake up at any. You never know when you could wake up. I mean, seriously, it's like that. But the things that seem to be the common denominators are sincerity, integrity, intent, and some preparation. And you never know, so just be alert. Yeah, and if you live your life as best you can, but you can see it's getting kind of squirrely out there.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
One thing I'm not doing right now that I was wondering if I should do is like have a constant 30 minutes in the morning where I sit.
That's good for you in any case. That's good for you. Yes, I would say yes.
Okay.
And it's hard to get a hard yes out of me like that, right? But I think that idea of spending 30 minutes in the morning just getting centered and getting in touch with your mind and just having that touchstone, that's a key to a much better life, I'd say, in general.
Okay. That one, yeah, the mornings I struggle with. So
yeah, let's get a ritual going, and you'll get to where it's like, have you ever known a woman who's really gotten into yoga? They turn into fanatics, man. They just have to do their yoga, right? It's the most important. And runners, the same thing. So, people who jog. So just make it into a routine. And this routine, unlike all the other routines in life, is a really good one. I mean, I didn't mean to imply anything. I think yoga is great for people. What I'm saying is that it ceases to be a burden and it starts to be a joy, right?
It's like going, yeah.
All right, sir. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, find your mind. See you later. Take
Thank
good
you.
care. All right. Bye bye.